All right, Phil. So I got CJ and Bruce to hit me up with the numbers from the Summit Gothic Season 1 for the Sorcerer Summit. So we're checking these out here. But it's just, we get some interesting numbers, get a look at what people are playing, get an idea of, what are the dominant cards that people are playing, which is pretty cool, and the dominant decks. So I'm going to share a screen here and just kind of we can talk this out. All right. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield. They just dropped an advanced search engine for Sorcery the Contested Realm. If you want to browse every available card or dig deep with powerful search filters, head over to sorcery.moxfield.com. You can even click on the search syntax button on the main page to see all the terms you can use. And don't worry, when new cards are revealed from official sources, Moxfield updates quickly. Now on to the show. Here we go.
Really amazing that we have access to this stuff through the Sorcery Summit. Like, well done. Yeah, so do you want to just hop into talking about how water was dominant?
Yeah, I guess we should talk about water. The elephant in the room here is dominant element, water at 80%, right? And it's funny because water was really not dominant previously. Phil, you hadn't even played with water cards until we got those precons, right? And then I showed you the Wave Shaper precon and you kind of fell in love. Like 80% water. And this is in the top decks. It looks like this is out of the top 15 decks. We have 12 of those top 15 are water, 2 have fire, and 1 has air. 0 decks with earth as their dominant element.
Yeah, Earth. It was a notoriously bad event for Earth, generally speaking, but Earth had a bit of a bounce back from this event at SCGCon Richmond, which was the first big event following SorceryCon. So Earth isn't totally out. It had a good showing in Deathspeaker. It had a great showing in Mono Earth Archie, both of which are decks that we covered on EternalDodos.com, so you can head over there if you want to check out what those decks look like. It was really interesting to see that a Mono Earth deck could actually hold its own against the field, which is what Mono Earth Archie did. But when it comes to SorceryCon, everybody, I think, knew coming in that Necromancers was the deck to beat, and then that was the deck that ultimately won. So really, I don't think it was a surprise to anyone that water was the most dominant element at the top tables.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so just to give a little bit of read here, so people know what they're looking at here. So this is decks with the dominant element being water, and this is element presence throughout all of those decks. So obviously 80% for water here. Just looking at it on both sides. Of course, that gives you an idea of like the overall saturation of these elements as well. But as you can see, air comes in as the second most prevalent element after that.
Yeah, and I think this also lends itself to a conversation to be had is, and I'll be interested to see if they ever comment on it within the next year. Part of why air, I think, is the best, if it's not your main color, it's the best supplementary color, because it has like really, really powerful tools that you want access to out of your collection, whether that's disenchant is like your generic removal spell for non-minions, but also the fact that zap, toolbox for zap, is just a way that like toolbox for zap obsoletes death's door as a mechanic. Like, I don't know if that was a goal that they intended to have happen, but it is a result of them printing Zap with Toolbox, is that like Death's Door as a mechanic is something that is like imbued in the game as a way that you're not just dead. It's like, nah, if they have Toolbox, then once you're at door, you're dead because you can't dodge the Zap. Like unless you're playing Ironclad, you're not dodging that. Or like if you didn't proactively remove it. So the fact that air, Zap is an air, it makes it so that like between Disenchant and Zap, that's like, if your whole collection was just disenchant and zap, you'd probably be content.
Well, I think the other thing is Phil, if you look at these, air is a color an element that is a supplementary element. You look at the utility spells that it has in like Grapple Shot and Whirling Blades, right? Whirling Blades probably one of the best exceptional cards in the game, although you do have to have a presence for it. When you're playing that off of like say a Dapral Vampire or something like that, that can take you from being almost dead to right back in the game and wiping out so much of your opponent's board. Not to mention, I do want to discuss the toolbox of it all. there, what you're talking about with Zap, because where I do think that that's a dominant use of toolboxes, like ending games with Zap. It does mean that you have to have been winning the game. I think that most games, like, yeah, is it anticlimactic to have somebody zap you after the toolbox, after the death door with the toolbox? Sure, but I think most games, I would say above 70% of games where you hit death's door are probably over, and this is just a great way to end what is already kind of a long drawn out process. And there are ways around that, of course, but I think that having access to toolbox and cards like that, because you can do it with minor explosion or other cards like that where you can kind of guarantee a hit. I think that that's totally fine. But I will say I do agree with your point. Air has some of the best supplementary cards in the game, and I think that Gothic didn't even affect that at all. Like it affected it some, sure. Zap, displace, those cards are very useful. But I truly think that overall that Murder of Crows also a big one as well. It's interesting to see that from the domination of water being the dominant element in decks, and then you see air as 60%, because that's probably because fire air and water air, and then mono air as a deck are like the big decks. Like water air is dank monsters, right? Fire air is any sort of smoke deck. You'll get some Fury Road decks with earth and fire, but that's not the dominant deck. Let's take a look at some of the dominant decks. So as you can see, Necromancer, Pathfinder, Impostor, Necromancer, Avatar of Air. There you go. Sorcerer, Impostor. A lot of Impostors here. Zalamon Impostor even. And then Necromancer, Roaring Turkey. Bruce is on Necromancer. Spellslinger. Somebody's crazy. Somebody's out there playing Spellslinger. Sorcerer, Pathfinder, and Elementalist. A lot of Pathfinder, a lot of Impostor, and a fair amount of Necromancer. 3 Necromancers, but like we had a run of Impostor there for a second.
You also have to think, like, I look at Impostor as like initially, like I would put Impostor most of the time just in the same bucket as Pathfinder, at least at a baseline, because the first thing that you're always moving into is Pathfinder, right? Like every Impostor's initial
should be, I think,
mask is Pathfinder. So that also goes to show, like, if you were to bucket the Impostor decks also into Pathfinder, since that's the first mask they're going to put on, that's a lot of Pathfinder.
Yeah. Let's check out this Pathfinder deck by Hycham. This deck says Waterfinder, and it's a mono water Pathfinder deck, which is not something I'm used to seeing.
Yeah, you don't have the there's some amount of trickiness between, like, you not getting to choose where your sites are placed, but you might get enough elements at large to be able to still control a decent amount of movement. And I think that water and fire, to me, are the two atlases that are the deepest. If you're playing singleton, which you have to for Pathfinder, like, I think we see mono fire Pathfinder because so many of the fire sites are very good, and like deserts are great in a world of ward. And water also has, like, between like pond and floodplain and stinging kelp and like all these sites that don't typically make it into like the mono water decks that aren't playing that aren't Pathfinder. Water's sites are pretty deep between Babbling Brook and Bog. These are all really playable sites that typically don't make it because water has so many good sites between Trollbridge and Thin Ice and things like that. So I think when it comes to atlases, fire and water have the deep bench.
Yeah. Let's go back and check out. I want to see some of these other decks. So I guess we might as well check out the Necromancer deck that came in first, right? I'm assuming this is just Necromancers. Some changes here. You got Illusionist over your Pied Piper here. Polar Explorers, I know. Splashing for Highland Princess to get a ring, to get Torch Hammer trinkets. It seems like Atlantean Fate is the card to play right now. Everyone seems to be playing Atlantean Fate. And I also like Black Plague here as a way to just deal with spiders and stuff. If you have to get onto your opponent's side of the board.
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing water, you're playing Atlantean Fate. That's a no-brainer.
Oh yeah, I mean that's a no-brainer, of course. But yeah, I mean nothing here that I'm looking at that I'm like, oh wow, that big changes. These are all cards you would expect to see in this deck, and of course 3 Whirling Blades, because why not, right? All right, let's get back to the deck list real fast and see a couple other ones. I would like to see how this Avatar of Air looks. The Avatar of Air deck, it just intrigues me. Someone's Fear, yeah, this is the classic Avatar of Air deck. We're rocking Rolling Boulder. Iron Shackles is an interesting choice here. Cloud Spirit, going low to the ground, just getting that movement in, right?
I think that's the best way to optimize air, right? Is to keep everybody off balance, and like the more movement you can get, you can really maximize your rolling boulders.
Yeah. I mean, this is a mono air beatdown deck, and of course 3 Whirling Blades. There it is again. Let's get back in. So what deck would you like to check out? I'm definitely interested to see Zalem's Impostor.
Let's look. Yeah, you want to take a look?
Yeah, let's take a look at Zalem's Impostor real fast. That dude do be brewing. I mean, this just looks like Necromancers. But what are the wow, all 10 spots, huh? There you go. Pathfinder, Ironclad, Enchantress. This is the full setup. All 10 of your collection are dedicated to the plan.
I mean, I guess if you don't feel the need to play Toolbox or Bullet, then yeah, give yourself all the options, right?
Yeah, why play Toolbox when you have access to Archimago to get cards back out of your yard, right? Like you got your Lightning Bolts here, Arcane Barrage if you really need it, right? Like you can use it. I like a Scatter, that's hot. Again, 3 Whirling Blades, there they are. Yeah, this just looks like it's Necromancers, but you have the utility of not having to make a 1/1 every turn, not having to. And there is no Necromancer in this list either. But there is a Savior. That's pretty interesting.
I think Savior is a great pick. Why wouldn't you? Like, of course. There's some decks that really struggle against Savior.
Yeah. All right. Let's go back. Anything? What other ones do you find interesting here?
Let's take
Before
a look.
We go into cards. We got Spellslinger. We should see what Spellslinger is, right?
We got to take a look at the Elementalist, right?
Yeah. Let's go to Elementalist real fast. This is Hate Bears. And this, to me, this just looks like you're just playing as many orders as you can. Paladins. These are all the wow, King Arthur. King Arthur, Queen Guinevere, and no, I was expecting the I win thing, but I guess not.
You got to respect. You got that's a gamer who came to game and understands that if you're winning, you just don't need the cheeky win condition.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's necessary. I expected that was what was going on, but it's certainly not. And then it's just knights all the way down. This is similar to the deck that crushed me in at Sorcery Con. You just play the knights and you get to play every good knight, and you don't even have to worry about their threshold because you'll be able to figure it out with the deck because everything has one less threshold basically.
Dude, and I know that King Arthur's bottleneck is typically its threshold, but the power to not have to care about mesmerism, infiltrate, or betrayal is really good.
Yeah. Well, which card is that you're saying that allows
King Arthur.
Oh, yes. Good call. King Arthur. Yeah.
King Arthur has legitimately relevant text against a lot of very powerful cards.
Yeah. This is true. All right. Let's go back here. And I do want to just see what's going on with the Spellslinger deck. Is it a meme? What's happening? Top 4, though. Of course, Atlantean Fate. I mean, we're looking at Necromancers, right? You got the you got all the hallmarks of the Necromancers deck, but you're just hey, I'll just play with 1 extra card. And is that worth more than Necromancer? Perhaps it is. I mean, I think in some scenarios, if your opponent can deal with your 1/1s, right? You just play cards that are bigger than that, and you kind of get there. All right, so let's talk about card usage. The cards that you're seeing in these decks, Phil. Lugbog Cat and Order of the Sacred Oak as the top cards being played right now. How do you feel about that?
I mean, Lugbog Cat has been one of the most played cards since I came into the game. Like before Gothic, when Lugbog Cat was just being put onto pawns, and that was the aggro like Steam Druid decks. Like Lugbog Cat is just a mainstay everywhere.
Yeah. I like Order of the Sacred Oak just to be able to protect, like, it's sticky and it can protect your sites if somebody wants to try and get rid of your sites. But also, it allows you to protect your sites and in a aggressive way where you can be like, I've got my Troll Bridge, I've got my Thin Ice, and I'm just going to use those to do removal and still have my Sacred Oak near them to be able to protect them. Then playing those off of your Abaddon Succubus or their Koinixie, right?
Yeah.
Swap big at 80%. Thin Ice. This is weighted by percent and the number played, so it's a little wonky to look at. This is I'm assuming this is the amount you will see them in decks. Let's move it to like this, just so we can look at it a little bit better.
Want to point out about Swap, the one thing about Swap that is maybe not necessarily recognizable at first glance, but one of the most powerful aspects of Swap, like the first swap is very powerful, but your swap to effectively counter their swap is also very powerful.
Yeah. Getting back your Ring of Morgan after they've taken it, right? Lord of Lies coming in, and then Stag. Stag is very good, and I used to think that Stag was overrated, but 4 for 4, it's very hard to get rid of a 4, and that ward that's on it already just makes it such a pain in the butt to deal with. The only way to get rid of those cards, and you're seeing it played, is Atlantean Fate. Getting Atlantean Fate seems to be the answer to getting rid of ward creatures, along with Call of the Sea.
Yeah, Call of the Sea and Atlantean Fate are the cheapest versions of the big wrath effect that actually clips more than just one site. Like Stormy Seas is very good, but Stormy Seas only affects one site. And good players will know not to house all of their creatures onto the same site. So Atlantean Fate is the best one and cheapest one, and it also can mesh with your opponent's threshold. I was a big Wrath of the Seas guy for a while. I was building big controlling magician builds with calls and wraths, and always proved to be very good. So yeah, I think that the more and more you get towards a bunch of the ward minions, the stronger and stronger things that Call of the Sea get.
Yeah, Call of the Sea to me feels like Blue's version of Earthquake, where it's very good, but it doesn't just automatically take everything out. But Atlantean Fate is just so good because it can also disrupt Threshold. And you could play Wrath of the Sea, and Wrath of the Sea is maybe a larger effect for the most part. But Call of the Sea, being that it hits everything adjacent to that one site, especially if you are a water deck, obviously you're going to be, right? Oftentimes you can get rid of several problematic warded minions that way and stabilize your board that way.
Yeah, those cards essentially extending your body of water by several squares, both Wrath and Call, and obviously Atlantean Fate just making your body of water where you choose it to be. The cards that it can extend a body of water to get additional minions and actually be worth that level of mana has proven very potent and is very good against a lot of the cards that are seeing play in the top decks that are otherwise very sticky. And we're seeing how good ward is, and so the natural counter to ward is to just go around it.
So let's look at by type. Obviously, Ring of Morgan goes in every deck at 80%, but and then Toolbox and Tor's Hammer Trinket coming in hot underneath that. And then you've got some Omphaloses, Mixes, and Cores. Then we go down to Auras. There's Atlantean Fate at 80%. Almost every deck that plays water is going to be playing this. Then Black Plague, and then let's go down to Avatar. Pathfinder is the predominant avatar at 27%. 1 out of every 4 decks is going to be Pathfinder. That's what that's telling you. Then
I wonder if that is not only because Pathfinder. Yeah, Pathfinder is really powerful, and I wonder how much of that is Pathfinder just being it's itself very powerful, and also how much replayability it has.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it's a card that can be extremely aggro. It can get you back into the game just because you never have to draw sites. And once you get to the point where you're 2-spelling, you're going to basically get right back into the game because you never have to waste draws on your sites. And most of these decks are pretty low to the ground, so you're going to be able to throw out cards much faster, and then you don't really have to worry about recouping your card advantage because you've basically been drawing extra cards the entire game. So then when we move on to spells or magics, swap, mesmerism, polymorph are your 3 big ones, and look at that. Whirling Blades at 60%. Almost every deck that can play Whirling Blades is going to be playing Whirling Blades. And then coming off of that, let's talk about minions. Lugbog Cat, Lord of Lies, and Sacred Stag are the top 3 there. And then what do we got? Is that it? It's just minions. Sites. The big sites: Floodplain, Thin Ice, Babbling Brook, Trollbridge. Not surprised to see those as our top sites. Interesting thing to check out too here is let's give a look to the element, the most played card in each element, right? Let's see here. There we go. Whirling Blades at 60%. We're not going to count Gothic Tower. That's a site, right? Whirling Blades at 60% for air. And then we've got, let's go all the way down here. Earth has Pillar of Zeros and Autumn Unicorn, basically Lugbog Cat, obviously at a lower rate. And that's because, why? People are playing Earth a little less often. Then we go down to Fire, Jihad as the top played fire card, followed by the Great Famine. And water, I think we already talked about water, but why not? Just reiterate that Atlantean Fate, Swap, and Lugbog Cat are obviously the cards to be playing if you're playing water.
Yeah, so I mean, how much do you think that looking at a lot of these cards, I mean, the most played cards in each thing are actually pre-Goth?
I mean, Lugbog Cat is certainly a power outlier. Atlantean Fate is, to me, I almost consider Atlantean Fate power. You know, like that is your time walk ancestral recall of this game. You know, like if I were to look at this game now, years later, after everyone having that discussion about what's the power 9 of sorcery, I would consider Atlantean Fate within that power 9. It's so vastly potent. If we're not talking about the mixes and the cores, and we're just talking about the most powerful
we should
spells,
definitely do the power 9 of sorcery episode.
Oh, for sure. I think that's a great idea. We will follow it up. And of course, Atlantean Fate is like your ancestral recall as far as I'm concerned. So, you know, let's talk about sites too, because I'm very interested to see what sites are the most played. I know we got a little bit of a look at that, but let's see here.
Zach, can you actually, I'm also curious, what were the least played avatars at SorceryCon?
Well, this was not SorceryCon. This was the Sorcerer Summit.
Oh, sorry. I mean the Sorcerer Summit. What were the avatars that did just not show up at all?
Well, so this only has the 15 top decks.
Oh, that's right. My bad.
No, unfortunately, no magician and no what's it called?
No enchantress.
Enchantress. I'm sure there is there is the data there somewhere.
Hold on. But wait. We looked at the Zalem deck. Did it have an enchantress in the collection, Zach?
It did not. No, because they only played 2 enchantments.
Yeah.
He just played Black Plague and Atlantean Fate. Not worth it.
What do you think would win more often, Magician or an Impostor player turning into Magician before killing somebody at door?
Come again?
What do you think would be what deck, if you were a gambling man, I know that you're not, but let's say you were a gambling man.
What do you mean I'm not a gambling man?
And we went into an event, and the bet was, do you think Magician will get more wins or would be more likely to win than Impostor that turns into Magician right before it wins?
I think Impostor that turns into Magician before it wins is probably more likely to take down a tournament than Magician by itself is.
Yeah. I mean, we can profoundly disagree.
Yeah, that's fine. All right. Well, I mean, that's a good look, and we're gonna have. I was talking to Bruce and CJ. I know CJ said he might be able to join us this weekend and chat a little bit about the data and just talk about the metagame and whatnot. Season 3 of Sorcerer Summit is coming up this Friday. Phil and I are going to do our goddamnedest to join that event. So we're tuning up our how to TTS and etiquette and stuff like that for the very scary part of playing sorcery against strangers on the internet. Part of the Sorcerer Summit that we just need to do. But what do you guys think? do you think that water is overrated right now? Do you think there are should we just start putting extinguish into our, or what is it, boil into our main decks? Is it time? What do you guys think is the plan? That said, Phil, I know that you've been posting a lot up on eternaldurdles.com for sorcery content. We've had a lot of people submitting sorcery content, which is awesome. Please continue, keep doing that. Reach out to Phil for that content. You have an article up this week. Tell me about what that article is.
Yeah, so at the time that we're recording this, earlier in the day, I posted my initial exploration into Realm Eater. I've explored Magician to the point where I have a list that I want to now take to a major event. If you want to see what I'm going to play Magician-wise, you can join our Patreon. We've allocated some of our longer, really, really in-depth pieces for our Patreon, because that type of stuff is not necessarily everybody's bread and butter. And so for the players that really want to like get the deep dive on Enchantress or get the deep dive on Magician, where Zach and I have really put in the reps to really be like, this is a deck list that's worth like working on and competing with, you can head over to Patreon. This article that just went live about Realm Eater is talking about my initial exploration into Realm Eater as I figure out what is actually the way to make it so that it's not a meme. If you want to go over to Ashen Void's YouTube channel, they just did a tier list for all of the avatars post-Gothic. There's 3 separate videos of that's like 3 hours plus or whatever of them talking about and ranking avatars. Now, of course, all of that stuff, a lot of it is subjective, of course, and where you agree and disagree. And it offered some amount of inspiration, because there was some the chip on my shoulder, Zach. I love an underdog story, and all of the avatars that were ranked a lot lower, I'm like, well, we got to figure out how to make them good. The stuff that like is very easy to make strong. Pathfinder seems like that's been figured out. Necromancer seems like it's been figured out. Impostor and all its variety has seemed to have been figured out. So I want to explore and experiment with the stuff that doesn't see as much play. I find that to be really exciting. So
people are out there just doing it with Spellslinger. So I mean, what are you going to do?
What's that?
People are out there just doing it with Spellslinger. So, I mean, come on.
Turns out when all you want to do is just draw one more card. And hey, you don't even have to play around Garden of Eden when you're doing that. That's pretty sweet. I've been got many a time by Garden of Eden. Yeah, so if you're interested in Realm Eater, head over, check out that article on Eternal Durdles. If you want to talk about like the avatars that you're exploring with and like the list that you want to do, just write up an article. Like, it doesn't have to be in depth. It doesn't have to be like super long or well written. Like, I will help you get there. I'm an editor by trade, so I can definitely help you like clean up anything and feel confident about it, and then we can post it, and then the community at large gets to get better. So that's the goal of the site, and hopefully you want to partake.
Yeah. So yeah, you can support us over at patreon.com/eternaldurdles. Quick shout out to Matt from IT. I just wanted to say thanks for pointing me out. That was very cool. And with that said, have a good one, everybody. Hey, thanks for watching. And if you get a moment, remember to like and subscribe to the video.
Also, don't forget to join us on Patreon at patreon.com/eternaldurdles in the Magicians tier.
Your support means a lot, and it helps us keep pumping out this content. Thanks so much.
Keep contesting the realm.